China has issued a stark warning to protesters. Today, a government spokesman in Beijing warned protesters that punishment was coming and they should not underestimate the strength of the central government. Hong Kong police also announced that they had arrested more than 148 people, the largest single-day tally since demonstrations began 2 months ago. Here's some of what Beijing's spokesman had to say.
We want to warn the handful of violent criminals and the meddling hands behind them that those who play with fire will perish by it. The punishment will only be a matter of time.
Let's now straight go to Beijing and to our correspondent, Matthias Böllinger. Matthias, strong words there. Is this meant to be a sharp warning to those China's calling criminals and meddlers?
Yes, it is meant as a warning. You can imagine if you heard these words in some mafia movie, you would shudder now and you would expect something to happen. However, this is not a mafia movie, and we can also notice that these words were not followed by any specific means that Beijing plans to implement. He did not elaborate on how these people would perish in the fire that they have set, as he put it. So it is still giving us a hint that Beijing has not made up his mind on how to react to these clashes in Hong Kong, on how it should deal with them. Other than that, he has said that Beijing stands firm behind Carrie Lam, the chief executive, and that it would be Hong Kong's government's task to resolve this issue. So in that regard, there was nothing new at this press conference.
But Matisse did talk about punishment, the Beijing spokesman. What kind of pressure can China use on the protesters? Is China preparing to use military force, do you think?
The threats have been out for 2 or 3 weeks now. The PLA, the People's Liberation Army, has said they would be ready to intervene if the Hong Kong government asked them to intervene. That would be the correct procedure, and has also issued a video that seems to enact something like quashing a protest in a city. Today we have seen another video by the Shenzhen police, that's the city just across the border from Hong Kong on the Chinese mainland, which have reenacted scenes that are strikingly similar to what is happening in Hong Kong. We have seen protesters wearing hard hats. As we have seen in Hong Kong, we have seen a lot of smoke. In that case, it was just smoke, not tear gas. In Hong Kong, it's tear gas deployed on the protesters, and these police units beating these protesters. So the warning that Beijing might intervene has been out for some time. There are reasons to believe that Beijing wants to try all other means that they have before they would do that, because it would bear considerable consequences on China's economy, on Hong Kong, and it's not the first thing that they would do if they have other options.
Okay, Matthias, before we continue our conversation, let's take a look at what's happening in Hong Kong. Our correspondent Charlotte Chelsom-Pill was at the demonstrations last night and sent us this report on the dramatic developments there.
As soon as we arrive, the chaos begins.
Just moments ago, police fired tear gas in this residential area. And you can really feel the tear gas here burns on the skin. This is an extremely volatile situation, very uncertain how this night is now going to unfold.
As the tear gas clears, protesters slowly return. Among them, dozens of local residents. Many joining chants demanding police retreat. Curious bystanders watching on, stunned at the scene unfolding in this normally quiet neighbourhood. Police call for more backup as the mood once again turns dark. The showdown begins.
Getting a lot noisier here. Protesters are starting to move ever closer to the royal police who are standing just there. Protesters moving forward fences and barricades. It looks like there could be some movement on this this standoff any moment now.
Each side waiting for the other to make the first move. Both threatening to tip this standoff over the edge. Close to midnight, the police move in, sending people scattering. With the blockade cleared, the arrests begin. This is a residential area, one woman screams. People here weren't even wearing face masks. More protesters are swept up as the police round on the stragglers. No one here wanted it to end this way. Those arrested face up to 10 years in prison if they're charged with rioting. It's a heavy price to pay for a night on the streets.
So, Matthias, as we saw in Charlotte's report, a very tense situation there. You yourself have been reporting on the ground during the protests in Hong Kong. In your assessment, how much impact will today's warning from Beijing have on the protesters?
Well, what we've clearly seen during these 8-9 weeks that this has been going on is that deterrence doesn't work. Hong Kong protesters are very emotional about this thing. There's this feeling that this might be the last chance to save Hong Kong from Beijing's grip. There's also this feeling that anyway people in this city would have no future. So these youngsters are taking big risks to do what they think they should do to prevent Beijing from taking a harder grip on the city. Last week we have seen more than 40 people arrested, brought to the courts the very next day, charged with rioting, which carries a very heavy sentence in Hong Kong, 10 years. What we've seen then is more people coming out, protesting at the police stations, attacking the police stations. So I do not think that this warning will change the course of events in any way.
Right, Matthias Böhlinger in Beijing, thank you very much for that update from there.